Everybody, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Now, look, I told you last week that I understand you guys have lunch duty, but I think some of you even have testing today. And to my international audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Global Forum for Teacher Educators, for allowing your participants. That's actually a group on Facebook, and they always support. So I get excited when I see people from other countries tuning in. Look, last week we had trouble with the chat, but Joanne, she helped me to understand that you're able to type into the chat. So just for my own nerves, okay, just type a greeting in the chat for me so I can make sure that I can attend to whatever you need or make any adjustments. So I tell you what, in the chat, I want you to insert your name and your school name. So what is your name and your school name, or what city are you coming from today? And same thing for my international audience. I want you to do the same thing so I can see you guys, okay? Just so I can make sure who's here today. I know Joanne is here. Joanne, what city are you in today? Hope you guys are not having trouble with the chat. In any case, while you're working on that, I'm gonna go ahead and get started because I know that you guys have some things that you need to do today. Now, let's go ahead and get the presentation up. Joanne. Oh, Joanne, Advantage Academy. Okay. Okay, I've been there. So good. Good. Glad to have you. Advantage Academy. That's a part of my family there. So glad to have you on board today, Joanne. Thank you so much. All right, look, I know you have other duties. Yeah, I know you have other duties that you have to get done today. So I don't want to hold you long. The information I'm going to share with you today is going to absolutely change the way you interact with your staff. And it is absolutely going to change the outcome or the product that you get from your staff, okay? How do I know? Because when I first started in administration, you may not be able to tell from this particular interaction with me, but let me tell you, when I get focused on something, I want it done. If you're in alignment with me or you think like me, go ahead and put a thumbs up in the chat or something, because if you're like me, when you get focused, you want it done. And not only do you want it done right. And so when I first started as an administrator, that interaction with my staff was very much so challenging. And I'm going to be very transparent with you. I had a hard time, I'm going to tell you. So if you're on here today and you had a hard time or you have a hard time dealing with staff or dealing with challenging staff, then this information for you today is going to be crucial, because once I started implementing this, not only did my relationships improve with my staff, but I'm telling you, along the way, I have met some phenomenal people, some phenomenal educators that have been able to, I mean, every accomplishment that I have is not necessarily, hey, Pew, is not, no, the chat is working today, Pew. So every accomplishment I have is not anything that I have done by myself or on my own. It has been because of the relationships that I have been able to build with my teachers, with my students, with my staff. One of my supervisors described me as having an uncanny ability to be able to bring people together. And I agree, but at the same time, It was the information that I'm going to give you today that revolutionized everything that I have ever done. Every accomplishment I've ever had has been because of the momentum that I've been able to achieve from building relationships and providing my staff with exactly what they need. Okay, I'm telling you. Now, if you learn how to master this implementation, I'm telling you, your whole career is going to change today. All right. All right, let's get started because I know you have lunch duty coming up. And I don't want to be the reason why you don't try to use me to get out of lunch duty. We need somebody in the cafeteria. Okay. All right. So let's go. Let me share my screen with you so we can get started. Okay. All right. Okay, so today we are going to talk about how to radically improve teacher capacity. Now that's important, okay? It's important because all these great ideas that you have, all these amazing things that you want to do, honey, it will not be accomplished if you do not empower and if you do not support your teachers the way they need to be supported. At the end of the day, all of your amazing ideas are facilitated or implemented by your teaching staff, okay? So I'm going to talk to you today about how to take empathy questions, because we talked last week, remember, about empathy interviews. So I'm going to show you how to take the answers from those interviews. First, I'm going to tell you some key questions you need to ask, okay? And I also have a link for like a Google Doc that you can just use if you want to make a copy of it and send it out to your staff. Now, I'm going to tell you, empathy interviews are best done, or I think you get the most out of them when you do them face-to-face, okay? So last week, I talked to you about how you need to make sure if your staff is large and you can't do it by yourself, like sit down with your staff on your own, then divide your staff into teams, which you probably do anyway, because you're probably set up with responsibilities by department or whatever. So you could divide it amongst your instructional leadership team and then take that information and bring it back to the team. And you guys disaggregate that information together, okay? It's great conversation, and it also builds, it will enlighten you, okay? It will help you to understand why there have been kinks in your instructional program. Okay, and I'm not talking about instructional strategies, right? So there's a difference between managing and implementing your instructional program, right? An instructional program is the system of improvement that you have for academics on your campus. But instructional strategies usually is what people focus on. They usually focus on like differentiated instruction, or are they delivering effective tier 1 that type of thing. But the program consists of the overall, the aerial view of academic improvement on your campus, okay? So I'm going to teach you how to revolutionize that professional development. And really what I'm teaching you today is differentiated leadership. Okay, write that down. Differentiated leadership, okay? When I go onto campuses, or my consultants go on campuses, one of the things that we talk about is how leadership, sometimes you give every single gift and talent and everything to all of your staff, but you need to be able to give them what they need, not what you want them to have. Give them what they need in order to get to where you want them to go, right? And so in order to do that, you have to have a differentiated lens. You cannot give everybody the same thing, okay? Or you're going to keep getting this same result. It tears my nerves all to pieces. Sometimes I see professional development, it's a one size fits all. It's not differentiated. But the same way we need differentiation in the classroom, you need it. It's a human thing, right? You need that for the teachers that you're working with as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. Okay, I've already asked you who's here, and I can see that we have some people who have tuned in since I first started. You already know about me if you were here last week. Look, I'm fun loving. I am not a stiff. I love engagement. So make sure you're pumping that chat with engagement. Every aha you get, every piece of information you get that you love, pump it in the chat, because I love speaking with you and I love having dialogue with the people that I speak with, right? Same thing for my international audience. Please do the same, okay? I have a great passion for education. You know I love high need schools. I just can't get enough of them, okay? And I think there are a couple of people from last week. We have some meetings scheduled. So look, if you're experiencing challenges, take that Calendly link that I'm going to give you at the end, set it up. Look, it'll probably only take about 30 minutes and I can figure it out for you, okay? And I'm with Impact Teaching, Training, and Leadership Development. We only do high need schools, okay? We only work with high need staff and we love doing it, okay? All right, so today's goal, let's get ready for next year. Okay, this is important. This is important. When I see instructional teams getting ready for the new year, they are always looking at student data or disaggregating student data and student data only. And that is why you have kinks, because when you design your instructional program, you designed it for students, not for teachers and students. I'm gonna sit that right there. Your instructional program has to be designed for teachers and students. So when you're creating that campus improvement plan or whatever you're going to put together for next year, it has to include both the teachers and the students. You have to know what teachers need in order to get to where you're trying to go and what the students need. So we've mastered students, like we know about data, we've talked about it in detail. But when it comes to teachers, we only use student performance to measure them most times. But you need to make sure that you understand the teacher as a human being, because that is going to teach you or show you what type of learner you're dealing with here, okay? All right, so goal one. I'm going to give you 4 empathy questions that you can use to survey. You can survey your colleagues, teachers, staff and stakeholders. Now, when I did it, I interviewed everybody. And look, when you do it face-to-face, if you decide to do it that way, it is going to take some time. Okay, sometimes it took me a month, depending on the size of the campus. Sometimes it only took me a week. It just depends on the size of your campus and the involvement, the level of involvement that you have. I sat down with the president of the PTSA. I sat down with the union or the teacher organizations, any type of organization that was involved in the district or in my school that was instrumental, that could delay or propel or move forward my instructional program. I sat down to figure out who they were. And I used the 4 questions that I'm going to give you today. Okay. Goal 2, we're going to talk about how you're going to disaggregate collected data from the empathy questions. Okay. Now, there's no defined section for that. It's going to be embedded in our conversation. So make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you're asking any questions you need, okay? Goal number 3, we want to discover how to use the data to prepare your professional development. There is no need to sit down with all of these people and hear all of the things that they're saying, and then you don't use it to mold and shape your professional development, okay? One of the things I used to do is once I got or received all of the answers from the people, when I interviewed them, I would put all of their words in a word cloud, right, per question. so that I can see what word is coming out or words are coming out. What trends were there in the conversations that I had with them? What were the trends that I identified? Okay. And it takes time, but it's worth it. Okay. Your staff will be saying, wow, I really feel like you listened to me. But it's just going to be that you heard them, you did listen to them, and then you created your instructional program according to your teachers and your staff. Okay. Don't leave out the custodian. Don't listen. These are culture people. Don't leave out the custodian. Don't leave out the secretaries in your office. Don't leave anybody out, because you can get information from everywhere. And the way I view it is all of that stuff is data. All of it is data. So you need all the information that you can get. All right, let's get started. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Number one, you're going to ask them, what are your strengths? This is important. And it seems simple, but you're not just asking these questions just to be asking, right? You are thinking about your vision for the campus. You are, if you're doing it in person, you want to see how they answer these questions, their body language when they answer these questions, right? Everything is data. Everything is data. So you want to watch their body language. How are they answering these questions? Are there any, is there any hesitation? All of these things you're downloading. Think of yourself as a supercomputer because you're downloading. So this seems simple, but you need to know this, okay? So sometimes when you ask this question, you'll have immediate responders who can tell you clearly what their strengths are. Listen, these are people who are self-aware. They are usually self-sufficient. So if you have a personality that is micromanaging, it's not going to work with that person. And that might be why you have this going on, is because their personality, they are sure of themselves. They know exactly what they're there for, what they want to do, how they can do it, how they can be successful. They already know usually. So I pay attention when I ask that and I get a teacher who is able to answer that quickly. Oh, I know, okay, this person is self-aware. They are self-sufficient. So I don't need a lot of pressure with that person. Sometimes I ask the question and the teachers, they may have trouble answering this question, right? So you may have experienced long pauses, or, they may start asking questions of clarity around what you're saying. Like, do you mean at school? You mean what are my strengths at school? Or do you, that type of person, what they're doing is they're seeking, not necessarily seeking approval, but they just want to get it right. They want to make sure they answer your question right? They probably are pleasers, okay? Sometimes it comes out in the form of being a perfectionist because they don't want to get it wrong and they don't want to displease you. So they want to make sure they answer your question correctly, okay? I know I'm very analytical, guys, and because of it, okay, I've been successful with these questions. I'm telling you. Okay. But what it also tells me about that person is, okay, maybe I need to be on the lookout. Maybe this person, I need to make sure I affirm them, that I make sure I encourage them, that I lift them up, that I put them in places where they can succeed, that I make sure I pay attention to every win they have for a while, because they probably need their confidence boosted a little bit, to get to be like that first responder, right? That self-aware, self-sufficient, this pleaser. I want to make sure that I provide them with the confidence or provide them with opportunities to gain confidence, right? Now, Occasionally, and this is all face-to-face, if you take a link and do it electronically and send it out to your staff, you probably won't see all of these things. You'll have to make predictions based on the information that they send you. But if you do it face-to-face, you'll be able to see all these things that I'm telling you now, okay? All right, so sometimes you get impartial, disinterested, dispassionate, or uninvolved people when you ask this question. You know, they're just like, what am I saying? They're trying to figure out, like, why are you even asking me this question? I don't understand why it's important for me to tell you this, right? And so with these people, you want to make sure that you are clear about the different types of personalities that are represented in school culture as defined by Dr. Anthony Muhammad, okay? And I know, Pew, you remember when we used to do this. Okay, so as defined by Dr. Anthony Muhammad in his book, Transforming School Culture, and I have 2017 there because that was the last edition that was created, but this book has been out for, I don't know how long. So again, the name of it is Transforming School Culture. So if you've not read this book and you are in a transformation school, or you're in the process of trying to transform your school in any way, you probably want to read that book, okay? It has been phenomenal. I actually had the opportunity to sit and speak with him, and he gave me some great information that is actually instrumental in what I'm telling you today, okay? All right, so when you encounter the personality that's impartial, disinterested, I mean, dispassionate, it's just like blah, you could talk forever and they just won't get it. Ask yourself, I wonder if this person is a fundamentalist or are they a survivor? Now, Dr. Anthony Muhammad talked about 4 personalities, okay? And while I'm telling you these personalities, I want you to first write each one down. The first one is believer. Write that down or put it in your phone or whatever. The second one is tweener, tweeners, 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 like between, but there's tweeners. The third one is survivor. Okay, they could have a survivor personality. And then the fourth one is fundamentalist. All right, now, as I'm explaining what each one is, I want you to count how many of each one you have on your campus, okay? We're still at what are your strengths, but this is foundational information, okay, that you need to know. All right, so believers are the people that believe in your vision. They are there with you 1000%, and they will do whatever it takes to support children. They may disagree, but they know how to come to you and talk to you about the process, and they may have another way to do it. They are believers. They believe in what your school is doing, and they are ready to help you. Tweeners are people who are new to the campus and/or new to teaching. They're in between. They have not decided whether or not they're going to be believers, and they're not survivors or fundamentalists either. They're just in between. They're new, okay? Then you have survivors. These are people who are kind of burned out. How many of them do you have? They are burned out, okay? I want you to get your numbers ready because I'm going to ask you in the chat for your numbers, okay? How many believers you have, how many tweeners you have, how many survivors do you have, and I want to know how many fundamentalists you have, which is the last personality. Fundamentalists are these people that are, they are so challenging, okay? Now, they do not mean any harm most of the time, but they are very much so challenging. It's always the opposite of whatever you say. I mean, and fundamentalists aren't always super vocal, right? Sometimes they are quiet or passive, right? So these people are just challenging to us. They challenge our vision, but not in a good way. It's, you may say, I need all doors open, during instructional time. And these people feel like they can they don't want the door open, so they're going to close it, even though you ask, because they don't understand why you're doing it. They go with whatever they feel is best for the children at that time. And sometimes that clashes with what you're doing, okay? They are challenging people. They believe something that is anti whatever vision you have, and they are going with it 1,000%. Okay. All right. Now in the chat, I want you to tell me, how many believers do you have? Yes, Camille Holmes, differentiated leadership. I see your comment there. In the chat, I want to know how many believers you have on your campus. How many tweeners do you have? How many survivors, these are burned out people, do you have? And how many fundamentalists do you have? Okay. You can just put B hyphen the number, T hyphen the number, S hyphen the number, and then F hyphen the number. The F stands for fundamentalist, not any other expletive that might come to your mind. Okay. The number, no names. All right, you keep working on that. I am ooh, okay. Wow. Miss Witters, you have 20 believers, 27 tweeners, 5 survivors, and 6 fundamentalists. A lot of new, yes, ma'am. And actually, that's the story all over the United States. I've been blessed to be able to be in different states this year with our consultants. And I'm telling you, it is, it's a lot going on out here. So absolutely, 20 believers, 27 tweeners. Good job. Okay, I love it. If you don't mind, Ms. Witters, I'm going to use your numbers moving on, because I know you all have lunch duty. I'm going to let you get to it. Okay, so yeah. So with here's a mistake that we make that hinders our instructional program or the movement of academic improvement on our campus, is that I see you, Zell, ready. I see you, 10%. Okay, Zell, ready? Are you a math person? We went with percentages today. I love it. I love it. Okay, so here is what kind of hinders our instructional program or delays or why we keep running into kinks, okay? We keep running into kinks because usually, I don't know what it is. Even when we were in the classroom, we did this until we came to an understanding. We will spend lots of time with fundamentalists and survivors, right? But to make a long story short, because I need to move on, your professional development that you design should be centered around your believers and your tweeners, because you have more of them. There are more people that are working with you than are not working with you. I want you to see that in your numbers. That's why I wanted you to put it in the chat, okay? That's why I wanted you guys internationally to put it in the chat, because there are more people working with you than who are not. And what we end up doing is spending all of our time, or a lot of our time, creating programs and thinking about what's not happening and usually is whatever's not happening is in those fundamentalist or survivor classrooms. You spend a lot of time there, and you don't need to, because you have policy and procedure for those, okay? And that's what I do. When you fall in those categories, it's policy and procedure. I can lead you with my heart, or I can lead you with policy and procedure, okay? If you are a fundamentalist or a survivor, I do not have the time, so I have to go policy and procedure until you decide that you want to be a believer, right? Or until we can get you to where you can be a believer, right? So when you design your PD, design it based on your believers and your tweeners. You want to pay attention to those answers, because you want to maintain or retain the teachers that you have. You don't want to lose good teachers, and spending time with fundamentalists and survivors trying to change their mind is a sure way to lose the good teachers that you have, okay? So just keep that in mind. All right, so I want you to just put an answer in here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much time have you spent trying to coach fundamentalists this year? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very little and 10 being way too much time, okay? I want to see, put it in the chat. I'm going to keep moving so we can get you out of here, okay? Number 2, what are your areas of growth? You're going to ask them, what are their areas of growth? This is Camille Holmes, way too much time. Can't give them that time and energy. Time and energy goes to believers and tweeners. All right. Insight. So number 2, empathy question number 2 gives you insight on campus PD needs. Okay. Campus PD needs. Now, for those of us who are perfectionists, right? If we don't hear it the way that we hear it in our minds, we'll overlook it. For example, a teacher will say to you, well, I need help working with each child according to the way that they learn or the way that they need. Well, as an instructional leader, you know the appropriate academic phrase for that or word for that is differentiated instruction. But because the teacher didn't say differentiated instruction, you'll overlook what they're saying. Okay, I just use that for an example. But when you're listening or reading what the teachers are saying, as the instructional leader, you are diagnosing exactly what they need, right? But when you communicate it to them, you're going to use the words that they said so that they know that you heard them. So you might create a professional development around differentiated instruction, but when you communicate it to them, you're going to say, okay, on next Wednesday after school, we're going to work on how you can support each child according to the way that they learn and the way that they need, okay? So that they understand that you heard them, that you read their answer, right? So many times it is what they tell you in question number 2 is going to align with what you want done, okay? So pay attention here, because this is going to tell you what type of PD they want. And it is probably in alignment with what you feel like they need. So don't freak out. Just let them talk. Okay. All right. Question number 3. What are things we do well as a school? This is important because this helps you to understand what is sacred to the team, what is sacred to the school. Most times they'll say we work great together as a team. Well, if they're telling you they work well together as a team, or they support each other very well, why are you designing instructional programs, and why are you designing professional development where they don't work together, where they're not working together as a team? They just told you they work well together as a team. Use it to your advantage so you can do less work and get more accomplished, okay? It also tells you quick wins, right? What are some things we do well as a team? Or what are some things we do well as a school? Well, we work well together. Well, guess what? Any activity I put together where they have to come together, and I had a few schools like that. So what? We celebrated birthdays. We did lots of stuff together. I went out to eat with my staff a lot. We did a lot together because they value being together. So I wanted to show them I value you being with your colleagues, okay? So this is how you get your momentum, your speed, the wind behind what you want to do. So pay attention to the answers in these questions as well, okay? And I have this question in here, but we may not have time for you to answer it. You can answer it in the chat. I'm going to keep going so I can get you out of here. But I want to ask, what landmines have you unintentionally stepped on because you didn't know what your team valued? So as you work with your teachers, your teaching staff, you will eventually learn, but it's far better to find out these things ahead of time so you don't step on a landmine, right? You don't want to go in and they love getting copies made by the secretary at the school, and then you come in and you're just going to dismantle that because you feel like teachers should do it on their own. No, if that's something that they value, leave it alone, okay? Because that question number 3 has to do with your momentum, and it has to do with respect. You're getting respect from the people you work with, okay? So you can put it in the chat if you've ever stepped on any landmines at your school. I am very interested in knowing, okay? Question number 4. Now, this one I love to ask. If you could lead us for a day, what would you change? Now, I have had people answer this question like, well, there's not a lot I can do in one day. Pay attention to that. That tells you a lot about that person. You're like, okay, this person, it could be that they are a perfectionist and they just have to hear things a certain way. It could be a lot of things, but that is key to me, all right? It may not be key to you, but I pay attention to it. This question is going to help you to identify who your campus helpers are, right? Because they're just going to start spilling and telling you exactly what they would change. But not only would they do they tell you what they would change, a way to determine whether or not are they willing to help is just ask them, how can I help you initiate this change on our campus? And you ask that question because you want to see if they will take the initiative to make those changes. Maybe they've been waiting for an opportunity to lead the entire time. You can identify your leaders here, okay? Your campus helpers, your campus pushers, these people that want to see a change, but no one has ever asked them about their opinion. This is important, okay? And it'll also share with you, in terms of campus helpers, I'm talking about not just your campus as a whole, but your instructional program. Maybe your professional development, you should let them do it. maybe they could design one far better than the one that you would put together, or maybe they just need you to coach them in that area, right? This is an opportunity for you to identify your leaders here, okay? Your campus helpers. So you want to ask this question. It's also a way for you to identify what are some areas that only require quick change. They may say something so simple, guys. It really doesn't take a lot to please teachers. It really doesn't. If you just take the time to listen, right? They may say something like, we want crushed ice. I would put crushed ice in the teacher's lounge. Oh, honey, say no more. Because I will make sure crushed ice is in the teacher's lounge every day. Okay, let's eliminate that challenge. Okay. Or whatever it is they say, make sure you take it into consideration. Now, when you get all of your answers together, and you may do this with your team, right? Bring all the answers in. You're going to look for trends. What are the trends? What is being said that's not being said? Okay. And how does this affect the instructional program? How does it affect operations on our campus? How does it affect culture on our campus? How does it affect instruction on our campus? Okay. You want to make sure you answer those 3 questions. And based on your answers or your team's answers to those questions, you take that information and design your professional development. Okay. It'll be much more relevant than what you probably have been doing. And your teachers will greatly appreciate it. And you'll be surprised the relationships that you're able to build from this, because if you are doing it face-to-face, it ends up being just an entire conversation. So I think I would set somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes to sit down and talk to each person. And you know me, I love to talk. So it would roll over sometimes. I didn't rush it, because they start sharing more information because they see that you're interested in hearing about them. Okay. And it makes them want to work for you, want to do things for you. Okay. All right. Those are the 4 questions that I use. I want you to type in the chat really quickly. What was your takeaway today? What was your greatest takeaway today? Greatest takeaway. I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds. What was your greatest takeaway today? And while you're doing that, I am going to find our resource link today. Okay. Yes. I love it. Spend more time. Yes. Okay. Spend more time with believers and tweeners. Great. If that is what you walk away with today, good. Okay. Spend more time with your believers and tweeners. Okay. Put all answers together and look for trends. That's right. So that is how you disaggregate qualitative data, right? Is you look for trends in what they're saying. And look, so Joanne, they may say it different ways, but you are drawing inference, right? What is it, Ms. Holmes, figure 19B? You're drawing inference here, okay? So draw your inference and see what those trends are. Spend more time with believers and tweeners. Very good. Zell Ready. I love it. Don't spend all your time. Listen, they're energy sucker. They are energy expensive. Just remember that phrase, energy expensive. It is energy expensive to spend all your time with fundamentalists and survivors. Use policy and procedure. We'll just go by policy and procedure here, okay? And I'm gonna tell you, I've done that. And I had a teacher to say to me, he was a fundamentalist, but I had him one day, we were just talking, going through our normal walkthrough and observation, our feedback conversation. And I guess that thing bothered him because he said, Dr. Stevens, I noticed how you interact differently with some of the teachers, and you'll act totally different with me. I don't get that personality that I see you giving to the others. You just are very matter of fact, and you just go through whatever we need to do, and it's just over. Our conversation is short. I mean, he was really describing, he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying. And you know what I told him? I said, you know what, Mr. So-and-so, I didn't know you wanted that from me. But now that I know you want that from me, I will make sure that I give that to you too. And just like that, he became a believer. And I'm telling you, he worked so hard for me, and we still talk today. Okay. So Witters, small wins, crushed ice. Yes, ma'am. What do you want? Donuts? What? I will give you whatever you want, because at the end of the day, I need my students to perform. So whatever that looks like in our building, that's what I'm going to do. Okay. And make sure your PD impacts operate. Yes. So impact, we have a definition for instructional leadership. It is not just instruction and curriculum. That is not instructional leadership. Instructional leadership is when a person or people are able to manage and implement using curriculum instruction, definitely, but also operations, culture, and curriculum and instruction. So all of those things you need to be able to manage if you're an instructional leader. You cannot do one without the other. So if you're only operational, you can't lead instruction like that. You'll get to a certain level of performance, and then your students will plateau because you don't understand curriculum and instruction, right? You have to understand that too. And you also have to understand culture, because you could be so deep in curriculum and instruction that your culture suffers, and you're wondering, why doesn't this work? It's not your plan. Your plan works great, but you need culture in order to make it move. So all of these questions I'm giving you today, the 4 questions, will help you with that. All right. Next week, I want you to remember this quote. Good schools have good principals, but high performance schools have instructional leaders. I live and die by this quote. Like, I stand on this quote. Okay. Just remember that. All of the information I share with you today is in our training, our instructional leadership training. Let's Go Up. If that's something that you're interested in impact sharing with your leadership, your instructional leadership team, if that's something you'd like for us to come and do for you, we can definitely do that for you. The link is at the bottom, okay, of this page, the bottom right. So calendly.com/impactttl. And I'd love to talk to you about it. Okay. Next week, I'm going to dig in your PLCs. Okay. Because if you can manage your PLCs right, okay, you're going to be a conduit of instructional leaders. You'll be able to produce them, and your teachers or your instructional leaders will be able to yield the student performance that you want. So I have it listed. I'm going to type in the chat right now the link. Okay. I want you to go right now and sign up. I want to see you next week. So go to the link, sign up, come back to the chat, and let me know you're in. I want you to say I'm in once you've signed up. right, sign up for next week. Come back to the chat. Let me know you're in. Let's go, Pew. Let's go, Holmes. See you next week, Witters. That's right. Awesome. Awesome. Hey, and I know some of you are testing this week, so good luck with that. Good. All right, guys. I wish you could see the international people here. They're doing an amazing job over here. All right, Zell ready. All right, guys. Each one bring one. Okay, because my international audience over here is cutting up, and so I want you to cut up too. So each one bring one, maybe your department chairs, maybe your just who, oh, you know who would be great, your team leaders. Okay, great question, Pew. So the recording, I will send you a link. It is going to be on demand. So once that link is ready, I'll send it out to all of you. Okay, so you can watch it on demand. All right, great question, Pew. Okay, guys, look, it has been amazing. I can't wait to see you next week. I was about to say next year. No, we're preparing for next year. I'm gonna see you next week, and we're gonna talk about these PLCs. Okay, Joanne, I see you. All right, so thanks for tuning in. Go to lunch duty. I know it's time, okay? Or check on your proctors who are testing, who are working with you at testing, okay? My email, website, all of that is listed there. You can go to our website, to the Instructional Leaders Vault, and you can download or copy the interview link, right? You can customize it for your campus and send it out to your staff. I'll make sure I send that in your email. So you guys have a great day, and thank you for tuning in.